It was supposed to be a night of celebration in the Tottenham district of North London. The final whistle would spark a sea of white shirts flooding the pitch. Nearly 36,000 voices would erupt in song. A banner would unfurl in the famous clock end, proclaiming, "We are the Tottenham Hotspur." For the first time since 1962, Tottenham was very likely returning to Europe's football top table. Things turned out differently. 10 Tottenham players were desperately running for the hills, or more accurately, the porcelain throne. If you love football history, then this is for you. Welcome back to another edition of Football Retold. Now, manager Martin Jol made the decision to treat his players to a meal at the Marriott Hotel in Canary Wharf, close to the stadium. What happened next is nothing short of sporting folklore, a tale of chaos, confusion, and questionable culinary decisions. We now live in a world where a common stomach bug can bring down a football team. Just ask Manchester City or Liverpool. But back in 2006, such an event was unheard of, especially for a team fighting for a top-4 finish. This is the story of how 10 Tottenham players got food poisoning. The story begins on the morning of May 2006. After a hearty breakfast, Martin Jol addressed his charges. He explained his vision for the future. He reiterated the importance of beating West Ham United in the final game of the season. Victory would secure Champions League qualification. It would be the first time they'd played in Europe's elite competition in more than 40 years. Most importantly, it would end Arsenal's 8-year reign as kings of North London. But it was a tired squad. Several players were nursing injuries, and Joel wanted to ensure they'd peak for the final match. Joel later said that the team was very positive because they were looking forward to celebrating afterwards. That evening, a meal was planned at the Canary Wharf Hotel. The players were served a selection of dishes. Lasagna and spaghetti bolognese were the most popular choices. All was going well at the restaurant. The Tottenham players had fun, and no one could have predicted what would happen next. Just before 1 a.m., reports emerged of a disturbance from within the hotel. First, it was Michael Carrick, who urgently needed the bathroom. Then, Robbie Keane entered the bathroom, closely followed by Gus Poyet and Stephen Kelly. Soon enough, the four were joined by more teammates. At least half the Tottenham squad was soon afflicted with violent bouts of vomiting and diarrhea. It was torture. I was sick, dizzy, and felt like my whole body was shutting down, Michael Carrick said afterwards. I remember stumbling around, trying to make my way to the toilet. It was absolute hell. In the ensuing chaos, defenders Callum Davenport and Anthony Gardner ended up sharing a bathroom. I was holding my head in the sink, and my backside was stuck to the toilet. I couldn't get off. I was swaying from side to side, hardly able to stand. It was horrendous. I've never experienced anything like it. We were in there for about 2 hours, and it was like an episode of Fawlty Towers. Tottenham's physiotherapist likened the scene to a military operation, rushing players from their rooms to the bathroom. Soon, the entire dressing room floor resembled the surface of the moon, with discarded buckets, towels, and sick bags strewn across the room. It was pure carnage, said Jermaine Jana. Every time I tried to sleep, I'd be sick. I was crying out for help. The physio and the doctor tried everything they could to stop me being sick, but nothing worked. I was up all night. My stomach was completely empty, so I thought that if I ate something, it might settle things down. But that just made matters worse, Jermaine Jenas continued. In the chaos, Martin Jol attempted to contact the Premier League to request a postponement. But his pleas fell on deaf ears. The answer from the Premier League Commission was a firm no. No precedents were set for such circumstances. Plus, a points deduction loomed if Tottenham failed to field a team. I asked the Premier League for a 24-hour postponement so that the players could rest. But they wouldn't agree, said Joel. They said we had to play. We had no choice. I was so angry. The Premier League made their decision purely on the rules. There was no empathy. They could see we were all ill. Our kitman was ill. 4 of our backroom staff were ill. It was ridiculous. We knew we couldn't let the fans down, though, so we did our best, even if that meant going out onto the pitch and playing without any preparation while feeling awful. As dawn approached, the Tottenham team bus pulled up outside the Boleyn ground, West Ham Stadium. The West Ham team was already on the pitch warming up. Joel selected his team, resting several key players. Carrick and Jenas were included. Both were already sick and barely able to function. West Ham sensed blood and piled on the pressure. West Ham midfielder Carl Fletcher let fly a well-struck shot from all of 30 yards that bounced off the turf and flew past the goalkeeper. But despite the setback, Joel made a tactical change. His team hadn't lost yet, and he hoped a tactical tweak could turn things around. Tottenham didn't give up, and it was Jermaine Defoe who fired a nice shot past the West Ham goalkeeper. The Tottenham Hotspurs were full of hope again, but in the 80th minute, West Ham's Yossi Benayoun fired a left-foot shot high into Robinson's top right-hand corner. The Tottenham celebrations were cancelled. The party turned into a funeral. In truth, the players gave it their all. But a combination of exhaustion and sickness left them sluggish and disinterested across the football pitch. But while the Spurs trudged off the football pitch dejectedly, their fate was sealed. Across town at Highbury, Arsenal supporters watched nervously as their team eventually won 4-2 with Wigan Athletic. When the final whistle in West Ham, Tottenham blew, the news reached White Hart Lane. The Gunners had done enough to clinch 4th spot, and so for the 5th year in succession, they qualified for the Champions League. Arsene Wenger and his players basked in the adulation of their fans. Across North London, the Tottenham players had fought tooth and nail to reach the promised land, only to be betrayed by their stomachs. An investigation was launched into the outbreak of illness, but no culprit was ever identified. Food poisoning was suspected initially, but tests later revealed that the players had contracted the highly contagious norovirus. Some fans, however, were unconvinced. Reports emerged that rival spies had sabotaged the team. Allegedly, they laced the lasagna with a drug to produce the symptoms suffered by the players, while others pointed the finger at the hotel. Maybe a rogue member of staff tampered with the food, but no one knows for sure. And so the Tottenham illness saga has become one of football's biggest what-ifs. Joel insisted that his side were the victims of foul play. "I really believe it was deliberate," he said. "Why else would so many players be struck down with violent sickness?" And to this day, some Spurs fans still insist that foul play was at work. If true, it would surely go down as one of the most audacious acts of sabotage in football history. There's no denying that Tottenham's failure to qualify for the Champions League cost them dearly. So what's the takeaway? Perhaps it was just a case of bad luck. Maybe rival spies were at work. Or maybe it was a faulty lasagna. Regardless, Tottenham's great lasagna debacle of 2006 remains one of the most controversial incidents in Premier League history. It continues to divide fans, players, and managers alike, and unless the truth emerges, speculation will continue to abound. It's a cautionary tale for any team hoping to dine on lasagna before a big match. For Tottenham, it was a night of heartbreak. For Arsenal, it was a stroke of fortune. And for the chefs everywhere, it was a case of don't mess with the lasagna. What do you think? Was this the biggest own goal in football history? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you're not already subscribed, click the button below to join the Football Retold family. Thanks for watching. And until next time, keep the lasagna far away from the pitch.